UNWANTED.
What's up? Another episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Ricardo Lorenzo, also known as Ricky Branson. A great episode for you today. Today we have returning guest, dear friend, and I believe record holder for most appearances on the podcast, James Corbett from the CorbettReport.com. If you guys aren't familiar with his website, please check it out. He is on other platforms, but the best spot to connect with him is on CorbettReport.com. He does research on all types of topics and research on history and current events, geopolitics, and obviously during the whole lockdown, the COVID scare, he's been doing some of the best research on what's really going on and the Great Reset, vaccines, all that type of stuff. And throughout the years, we've done a lot of shows together, so please go back in the archives and check them out. We've done shows on the OKC bombing with Chris Emery. We've done shows with Richard Grove, Hunter Motz, Swapcasts with Sam Tripoli, and this Conspiracy Farm guys. I mean, we've done so many great shows throughout the year, so please go back. Like I said, go in the archives, check out some of his past appearances, and please check out his website, CorbettReport.com. And this week on Fringe.fm, like I announced on the last podcast, you can find the Ripple Effect Podcast every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Download the app, or you can listen to it on a desktop. It is a radio station just for alternative media. Other great shows that are on there at the moment, Grimerica, and Charlie Robinson's Macroaggression. And hopefully some other ones are also coming there that you're familiar with very, very soon. So keep checking out their schedule, keep checking out their website, and support what they're doing, because I think it's a great idea having this 24/7 alternative media radio station. Also, this week I'm going to release the very first episode of my Rockfin show called Ricky Rants on Rockfin, brought to you by the Ripple Effect Podcast. Find me on Rockfin, rockfin.com/Ripple Effect. I'll put all this stuff in the show description. And I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know how long it's going to go for. Join me in this journey of trying to figure out what a solo Ripple Effect podcast might sound like. Should be fun. I'm just going to talk about anything and everything like I usually do by myself. So who knows what type of long rants I might go on. Remember, if you want to support the show, we have a Patreon page that will also be in the show description. It doesn't matter if you listen or watch the show on YouTube, Odyssey, BitChute, Float. In the show description, you'll find links to my Patreon page, my Fringe page, my Rockfin page, and all the other places you can support the show, like Patreon. I have a PayPal account if you want to tip the show, my merch store, the Ripple Effect Podcast, merch.com. And if you do support the show on Patreon, I let you know in advance who is going to be on the show. I connect with the listeners on there. If you send me a message on there, I usually get back to you pretty quickly. And I started doing Patreon podcasts, which is a podcast I do just with my Patreon supporters. I give you guys my Zoom link, and you guys can jump in the conversation, and we all can kind of connect with each other, chat about what's going on in the world, and then it's released as a show, as a podcast. So a great way to get on the podcast and a great way of connecting with myself and other listeners. Closer to the end of the show, there was a little hiss that was bothering the crap out of me. Sometimes I do 3-hour shows. Then I even record intros and sometimes do 2 shows a day and have zero problems. And then I do a show like I did with James Corbett, only a little over an hour. And close to the end of the show, I get this little hiss that was bothering the crap out of me and distracting me. So I end up cutting out that part with the hiss because I couldn't find a way to clean it up, and I replaced it with the Skype audio. So if you hear some change in the audio, that's what it is. Hopefully it's not too distracting, it's not too noticeable. But that's it. Just want to kind of fill you guys in on that. I can't figure out what it is. I don't know if it's static, if it's what it is. It just randomly shows up and randomly goes away. It's happened in past episodes. I've unplugged everything. I've rewired things. I have no idea what's causing it, but I'll keep problem solving and try to figure out what that is. But that's it, guys. Finally, enjoy the show, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. But thanks for being with. I think this is the longest we've gone without connecting at some point. I know
it's been a while.
Yeah, I think it's been like 6 months or so, and usually every couple months you're putting out so much content. If I don't talk to you for this long, then I feel like, what the hell am I going to talk to them about? There's so many different podcasts and documentaries to kind of discuss. It's endless. I mean, 2020 was a weird year because in a way it was obviously there's tons of horrible things about it, but I was just telling Dan Dix this on one of the last podcasts I did. But for a lot of alternative media, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel because there's been a lot of people who are much more open to a lot of the things we're talking about, and I feel like they pushed us so much that like we've hit rock bottom in regards to like the censorship, in regards to the media lying and obviously having agendas, that I think a lot of people are waking up just based on that. It's like they've gone too far where it's like it's almost, they say revolutions happen when finally you're like, as long as we'll be mad, but as long as we have food and we have shelter and we have the necessities, we'll complain, but we'll go on with our lives. But now that we've gone to the point where people are hungry, people can't pay their bills, and a lot of this is based on government policies, lockdowns and all this stuff, backed by very little to no science, and people are finally getting really upset. So I think it's almost, I mean, obviously the idea of a civil war or some type of revolution is scary, but I almost think like it feels like we're at the break of something, like we're at the edge of something, and I don't know what it is, but it seems like there's some type of transition. And I'm not talking about the Greater Reset transition. I'm talking about everybody who resists the Greater Reset. I feel like that group is growing and becoming more aware and getting to the point where they understand you can't just ignore this stuff anymore. You can't just go on with your everyday life while James Corbett is putting out all this amazing research and telling about all this stuff, because now it's infiltrated every aspect of our lives and it can't be ignored any longer.
Yeah, you're right about that. And not only new people who are just starting to question this, or at least starting to allow themselves to question this stuff, but also a lot of people that have come across my work over the last several years or decade and a half and have been into it for a time and then sort of like, oh, this is too much, I don't want to deal with this, and went away, suddenly realizing, oh, maybe I can't just go away and ignore all of this stuff. Maybe it actually will literally lock me in my own home, so I'm a prisoner. Yeah, I mean, there's a change coming. The only question is what change and who gets to drive that, right? So I mean, that's the fundamental thing that I want to stress in my work at this point, is that, yeah, you better believe there's a change coming. But if you're not actively participating in creating and shaping that change, then it's going to steamroll right over you. And I have the sense more clearly than I ever have before. I've always, understood this in some sense, but more clearly than ever, that essentially there is a time, and I don't know when exactly that trigger is pulled for good and they really go for it, but there is a time when they are going to try to exterminate us like bugs. I mean, the vast majority of human beings on this planet are cockroaches to them that just need to be stepped on because we're in the way. And that is literally the vision of the transhumanist Great Reset, that we are biological refuse that needs to be done away with. And it's horrible to crystal clear understand that and see that from every different vector and see the ways they're putting it all into place, and then watch so much of the public just starting to sort of question maybe something's going on here. They're going to try to exterminate us like bugs. We do not have time for most people to get caught up to speed with this, but what else can you do? So yes, I am working harder than ever. The funny thing was 2020, obviously, the craziest year of my life, the most insane busy year of my life in terms of the work I'm doing. I thought I could have a little break over Christmas, New Year, and then ease my way back into 2021. But I'm actually working harder this year than I was last year, and I'm getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. So I don't know. Something's gonna happen. I hope it's for the good.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I'm kind of the same way where I normally I can detach from everything that's going on from time to time, like find some mindless entertainment, listen to some music, whatever it may be. But now I've gone to the point where there's so much going on, and you feel like it's a fight that I can't like I just can't take a break from. Like I have to constantly be researching, making sure I have my information correct, making sure I'm getting guests that are going to help expose what's going on, and just keep doing this. And it seems more important than ever. And it's, I mean, I guess it's that saying, if you find a job you love, you never work a day in your life. It's weird to love exposing such horrible people, but it is one of those things where the alternative is ignorance is bliss. I mean, I've never been one of those people, I and you're not either. Yeah, we got into this, and you way before I did. I mean, you were a huge influence of mine when I first started my podcast. But we got into this because we had to do something. We felt like I couldn't just ignore everything that was going on in the world and pretend I didn't know it was going on. And I think, and I've said this on the show a bunch of times, where when we're preaching stuff about geopolitics, foreign policy, that type of stuff. We just had Vanessa Beeley, somebody you've talked to quite a bit throughout the years, on the last Union of the Unwanted. She's awesome in geopolitics and all that type of stuff. But I think those type of issues, it's hard to get people motivated because it doesn't change your everyday life. I still get to go to the park with the kids. I get to, go to out to eat with the wife. But this issue has seeped into every aspect of life, and it's motivated people. I mean, there's more podcasts than ever. There's researchers that I love seem to be busier than ever. I think we're really more motivated than ever because of those reasons.
I think you're right about that. And of course, as a result, I'm sure you saw recently the AP had a story about podcasts are the new extremist terrorist weaponization device of choice. And we've got to censor those podcasts. That's how they're getting around this tech censorship, guys. Surprise, surprise, right?
Yeah, well, that was something that I've always been a little nervous about, because when I started doing my podcast, and obviously you were on YouTube, I always posted my stuff on YouTube, but YouTube was just one of those things where, like, while it's there, I'll post it on there. It'll be one more tool that I'll use. But I knew most of my listeners were downloading, listening to my show, and I could tell by the numbers, and also I could see that there was something going on YouTube, because nobody was watching my show on YouTube, but I was getting tons of downloads, and those numbers kept growing. So I'm like, what is going on here? Like, what? So then real early, I'm like, okay, obviously they're suppressing a lot of information and anything that's controversial. But while it's there, I'll use it. But I felt like, is it a matter of time before? Because at that point, I'm like, well, podcast, our RSS feed is like the safe spot. It's like where I can say whatever I want. I don't have to worry about anything getting flagged. I don't have to, worry about any of those issues. But when I had Del Bigtree on, iTunes, made my show disappear for a couple of days. And then the same thing happened when I had Mickey Willis on, the filmmaker from Plandemic. That show disappeared for a couple of days. I had listeners send me screenshots of like, hey, I'm on iTunes. It's not there. So it was like the beginning of, okay, maybe we're not safe even here. And people like yourself have been saying this for a long time, actually. You interviewed Jeremy from Library, and even way before that, you talked about how you had a very unpopular video of alternatives. But I'm now more than ever like not just talking about it, but going on to those platforms, promoting those platforms, hoping that I can get people to come along with me, because eventually YouTube is going to be cat videos and and cooking videos and that type of stuff. So it's a matter of time. I know something you've talked about, and I'll let you jump in here. But this idea of, like, the cool thing about the internet is everybody having their own spot. And I love that idea too. Like, people can go to rippleeffectpodcast.com. They can get the links to any of my other things, but they can listen to it right there. They don't have to worry about anybody else or anything else. But there is a necessity, I think, for like I follow a lot of researchers, and I'm sure, and I know you do too. Don't you think it'll be hard if everybody's in a different spot to kind of keep up with everybody? Like, don't you think that having some type of certain, okay, you're already saying no.
No, no, I don't, because the technology already exists to solve that problem easily. It's called really simple syndication, RSS. It was invented, I don't know, a couple decades ago now. Aaron Swartz was fundamental in helping to get that going. Aaron Swartz should be a name that I hope your listeners are familiar with. And there it is. There's an RSS feed. It isn't controlled by anyone. You don't need some sort of middleman or some sort of platform to host it. No, I can host it right there on my own server, on my own site. There's an RSS feed. You click the subscribe button, and there's a bajillion different apps that'll interact with that in different ways. You could even use iTunes or whatever to subscribe via RSS. And then, so that's it. You find a researcher, you think, oh, that person's interesting. You go to their site, you click the RSS subscribe button, and there you go. And as long as they have their site up, it's done. And you never have to think about it again. You never have to go to that site again. You don't have to follow them. When there's a new post or a new podcast or whatever it is, it'll come directly into your RSS feed reader, your podcatcher, your iTunes, whatever it is. Done. Sorted. That's it. Yeah. We don't need some elaborate mechanism. We don't all need to congregate in the same space. We don't need any of that. This is such a simple thing that people's minds rebel against it.
Well, I think that does make the issue of trying to keep up with everybody, that does solve that problem, because I agree. I mean, the nice thing, like I use Podcast Addict for Android, and the nice thing about Podcast Addict is you can literally just punch in somebody's RSS feed. I don't have to use iTunes. I just put in somebody's RSS feed and I can subscribe in that manner. I think the problem is having a tool, because at one point, YouTube, Google, I mean, even Joe Rogan, he talked about this when he had Tulsi Gabbard on, and every once in a while, it's like I don't know what that show. I have such mixed feelings, because sometimes he does things that I'm like, okay, this is actually good. He was talking about how the doctor who passed away in Florida, when he was on Google, he would put in the doctor's name, he put in the specific place he was from or where it happened. All the specific information would not come up. Went to DuckDuckGo and found it immediately. And so he says things like this, and then the next show he'll have some pro-vaccine doctor who just spewing 2 hours of nonsense. So it is a little confusing. But so at some point we could use YouTube and Google to find your work and my work and stuff like that. Do you think that, sorry, I got distracted because my phone just saying Google turned on, and even though it's on airplane mode. But do you think that there is going to be an issue in regards just to finding new people's work? Because I mean, I guess a lot of us, the nice thing about the alternative media community, for the most part, we all help each other. We do shows together. If somebody does good work, we'll reference it. So I guess you find it's almost like, we're both big music fans. I used to be exposed to a lot of new musicians because they would collaborate on the album. They would go on tour together, and I'm like, right. Oh, who's this? Yeah. So it's kind of, I guess you could I'm answering my own question, but I guess you could bypass having to have some type of search engine for alternative media.
Yes, exactly. I mean, to find new people and things, the best way to do that is organically, and that's through your friends in real life or through the people that you listen to on podcasts or whatever on the internet side of things. So, yeah, I think that aspect of it is fine. But searching, being able to search for information is so fundamentally important that, again, absolutely everything else we do in some way revolves around that issue and where that goes. Because I made this point before. I did a video, we need to talk about search, something like that. People can look it up, where I made the point that right now we think of searching for something like Rogan or whatever, searching for that doctor, and you go to Google and you're typing in the name of the doctor, and oh, that didn't work. So, okay, that doctor, Florida, no, that didn't work. Okay, I'll type in something else. I'll type in something else. And then eventually maybe you can type it 18 different ways until finally you find some sort of search result that matches what you want. And that's the way we think of what searching is. But no, the devices that we have right now are going away. They are not, they want essentially people to have vending machines in their pockets that are nothing but slabs that you maybe fondle once in a while, but eventually you're just going to be speaking to. It's going to be Alexa is going to be your main access to the internet and online information. And how do you search on Alexa? You're not sitting there you're not typing anything in, you're not refining search, you're not going through lists of stuff. You're saying, Alexa, what's this? And Alexa will tell you something. What's his name? Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Alphabet, said that directly in an interview years and years ago. He said, when you search for something on some random term, how many results do you get? 1 million, 3 million, 15 million? That isn't a feature, that's a bug. You should get exactly one answer, and it should be the right answer, and we will tell you it. And eventually, we'll know what you're going to ask before you ask it. That's going to be the ultimate vision of Google. And that's where things are moving. They don't want us to even be able to think about having to search for something. They're just going to provide us with the information that we need when we need it. Yay, what could go wrong? So, yes, the idea of search and having access to the Library of Alexandria, as I've pointed out before, the incredible sum of knowledge that is out there right now, it cannot be stressed how important that is. And if people want a sort of more, not esoteric, but like a more imaginative way of understanding that, there is an incredible short story by Jorge Luis Borges called The Library of Babel. And it is, I love it. It's one of those kind of mess with your mind kind of stories that's just beautiful. I won't try to describe it, but I did do a podcast on it, and I did do a reading of that short story. So you can, if you don't want to read it yourself, you can listen to me read it. It is the issue, because it's great to have this incredible vast repository of information, but if you can't find anything in that repository, it is utterly useless to the point of driving you insane. And that's the world we're heading into.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that people like Del Bigtree gets completely wiped off YouTube, but yet his nonprofit organization that actually sued Massachusetts and got rid of the mandatory flu vaccine, I believe ICANN was a part of that. So he's being banned like it's pseudoscience, but yet he does something good and obviously proves something, and that he's knowledgeable about a topic and won in court. So it's like, wait, I don't get it. If you're banning it, it's because it's supposed to be conspiracy theory. But the same person proved that the mandatory flu vaccine was ridiculous. Which now look at all the parents. I mean, I feel bad for the parents that didn't know any better, that gave their kids the flu vaccine, and now we're like, well, I guess that was useless.
Here's a quick test. Do you know about my issue with YouTube this past week?
Yes, you're one of the people that I follow a little closer, and yes, I know that you recently got flagged, and then even your future of vaccine podcast got flagged, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you at least saw that, because I've noted even some of the Corbett Report members commenting, subscribers to my website, commenting in the comment section of corbettreport.com don't even seem to know this. Someone was asking, where was New World Next Week last week? You didn't post one. Yes, I did post one. I just didn't post it to my main YouTube channel because I'm blocked from it. Yeah. So it started, I think, it might have been a couple of weeks ago now. I got a strike on a New World Next Week episode from months back, talking about the German Corona Investigative Committee and their legal case. And in fact, I was a little bit skeptical of it in that episode. But anyway, it got struck because obviously you can't mention the fact that lawyers are mounting cases against governments because of what they're doing. You can't even mention that fact on YouTube. So anyway, that got struck and taken down. And that was a warning strike. And then the second strike came for a 9-year-old video. 9-year-old radio show that I did, that I put the video up on YouTube in 2012, called Pandemic, where I was talking about, at that time, MERS was emerging in Saudi Arabia, I believe, and they were keeping their eye on it. Oh, here's this emerging coronavirus. It looks a lot like SARS. It could be the next big pandemic. And I was pointing out the scam behind that and talking about previous scams like the swine flu scam. And it sat there. No one had even thought about that for 9 years until a few weeks ago. I put it up on the front page of CorbettReport.com as a flashback. Hey, remember that time 9 years ago I was talking about coronavirus pandemics being ginned up by the WHO? Well, hey. And then lo and behold, it gets flagged and struck. So then I got a 1 week suspension, which I believe might be up by now. We'll see. And it was during that week of ban that I got the future of vaccines taken down. But because I was banned for a week, it doesn't count as another strike. Whatever. I don't care about any of this. I'm just interested to note that even the people who are in the core of my audience, who literally subscribe, pay money to subscribe to my website, don't necessarily know that I've been banned and don't see my work because, hey, I didn't see anything new on the YouTube channel. Don't rely on YouTube. You cannot rely on YouTube. You will lose so many voices if you do so, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that so many people trusted it, and I'm glad I never trusted it from the beginning. Go back to 2009. I think I was pimping something called Veracity Videos, which was an attempt, a very, very early attempt to do an alternative video platform. I'm like, hey guys, look, there's people doing other things. I think we should do more of this. Talk about being a little bit too far ahead of the curve. But anyway, so yeah, I've known from the beginning that this is where it's heading. It's just, it's the Cassandra curse. I mean, being able to see where things are heading and telling people about it, and no one listens to you. Hey, there's coronavirus pandemic, scamdemic garbage that the WHO is cooking up. Hey, the YouTube is going to scrub everything. And here we are.
Yeah, I almost feel like we're all of us. We've been talking about depopulation, eugenics, all these words. The Big-Pharma and pushing the vaccine agenda, sterilizing, women with vaccines. And it was all like, lock these people up. They're crazy. And now we're in like a crazy home. And they're like, hey, those guys we locked up? I think they were right. It's wild.
Yeah. And still, I mean, there's the portion of the public that even when things are admitted, they'll go, well, of course. I mean, of course it's that way. It couldn't be any other way. And you're still crazy, even though you were right. But not crazy, right.
I've lost faith in they talk about, give somebody a red pill, blue pill. Certain people, it doesn't matter how many pills you give them. You just, it's like it only lasts for like a day,
Exactly. You're right about that. I mean, this is the thing. People have the wrong conception of it. People think that it's about the information itself, as if the information is totally neutral and people will see it and will recognize it and then it will change their life or something. That isn't how it works. It is a psychological phenomenon that is not rational. 99% is not rational. The 1% of it maybe, and hopefully that will get through to people, but you can't. And this is what I continue to get on surely a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, feedback from different people is, I've tried everything with my brother, with my wife, with my whatever, my granddaughter, whatever it is, but they just won't take this information. I'm like, yeah, some people won't. Some people will not. They will fight on no matter what. And, what advice do you give to people who are in that position? Because I don't have any satisfying advice. I just think you can't make someone wake up. I wish I had the solution, but there is none.
Well, I think I try to be optimistic because I've seen it happen a few times, or actually a lot of times, where I will talk to somebody about something, they resist. You can tell they just either don't want the information or it's against whatever team they're on. So they're just completely just fighting back. And I try to logically, not offend them. And people in our world, I think sometimes we do this thing, information overload, where we just give them so much information. And I do it all the time because what I try to do is just letting them know that, like, hey, I'm informed. Yeah. So I'm just letting you know, like, I'm not just spewing out bullshit. I'm actually, so I just pissed off all your listeners. I said, I swear. every time I'm on, you're like, I listen to James with my kids.
I do get that. I wish guests wouldn't say those words.
But yeah, it's well, you don't want to be censoring people, right? Then you're just as good as YouTube. But but yeah, but I do feel like little by little, you can chip away at people, and they might not believe me, or I might not get through to them, and then they run in somebody else's work, they have another discussion, and little by little, sometimes people will change.
Yeah.
You've talked about it in past videos about how people just sometimes, I mean, it's like that, and I say it all the time, so I'm sorry for people who've heard this over and over again, but it's easier to trick somebody than convince them they've been tricked. And it is one of those things where initially your reaction is, you're saying I'm an idiot and I fell for it, or it's just one of those things where I feel like when somebody tells you like the way you look at something is been wrong and incorrect, but yet you've been sold on that idea, your first reaction is like, it's ego. It could be ego. Ego could get in the way where you're just like, no, I don't want to admit that I'm wrong. I mean, you see it sometimes with certain debates. Like I used to love debates, but after a while, it's like so many debates were just like for lack of a better term, a pissing contest where it's just like ego thing where it's like, well, I'm just going to try to make you look dumb and you're trying to make me look dumb. And it's like, I thought this was to share ideas and to challenge each other's ideas and then learn in the process of those ideas being challenged. And too often that's not the case, where just like, I'm just going to try to make you look dumb. So it's like a lot of times it turns into those type of discussions. But I do have faith that in many cases, sometimes it seems like the discussion got nowhere and you didn't get through to them, but you are planting the seed. And little by the only thing is, I mean, I was going to say, and then they could go online and find this, but you can't even do that anymore. So hopefully.
Yeah,
and I think the alternative is worse. Like, what do we not attempt to share this information with anybody because we think that they're completely lost forever?
Right.
I just shared a little clip, and I've been doing it recently. Just sharing little clips, trying to find time to do that because people seem to like that and don't have attention spans to hear full discussions. But little clips of older shows that newer listeners might not be familiar with, and maybe exposing them to it. And I shared a little clip of when Jesse Ventura was on in episode 75, and he talked about how like he argued with his son Tyrell about 9/11. And they argued, and then eventually he convinced them to watch Loose Change, and it completely changed his perspective and became skeptical of everything. So you look at it like Tyrell could have easily been like, my dad's ignorant, he's an old man, I'm never gonna and then Jesse Ventura became the most popular conspiracy theorist of all time. Even though it's funny, I don't know if you've been following him, and I don't follow him as closely as I used to, but there's him and a couple others that I would say are people who would question the mainstream narrative and have in the past have fallen for the mainstream narrative. And it's a little concerning. It's like, wait, you know they're liars. There's, you follow the money, you can find the motives, but you think this time it's like they're trying to save you, they're trying to help you, and it's confusing.
It's always interesting when you see someone who knows about, oh, they killed JFK, they helped stage 9/11, all of this stuff, but then the answer is government. The government's going to save you.
Well, it's like anyway, Noam Chomsky, right? Noam Chomsky, same thing. We all love manufactured consent.
JFK was totally a lone nut, and 9/11, who cares, was not Chomsky's famous assessment. So there you go. That's what you're going to get from Chomsky in terms of conspiracy analysis. But speaking to that idea, yeah, you're right. Like, I hope I didn't sound earlier like I thought just give up. I don't think that's the case. I think you have to speak your truth and be informed about your truth and be open to changing your mind as well. You may be wrong. I may be wrong. These are things that we should keep. I'm a human being. I guarantee you I'm wrong about certain things, and I'm ignorant of other things, and whatever. Every one of us is, and we should be open to listening to the people that we're dialoguing with rather than just proselytizing. I have the truth, capital T, and I'm going to lay it on you. Yeah, if you come from that perspective, it's probably not going to be effective most of the time. Let's put it that way. Another thing to keep in mind is that I think people fail to appreciate that a large portion of people who do put up mental blockers to certain information do so because of fear. It is a fear-based perspective that keeps people, no. If I believe that, things are really bad, so I'm not going to believe that. No. And it's the old thing, stick your fingers in your ears and just hope it goes away. I think we have to at least understand that that's the place that people are coming from. So when you start arguing with them and getting angry and defensive, and that's not going to help someone come out of their fear-based position. 9 times out of 10. But again, it's so contextual. I mean, everyone responds to different things in different ways. Like, for example, I remember way back when I was just starting to dip my toes into all of this, and I remember seeing, of course, a video of Alex Jones at some rally or something where he was getting in the face of these communists who were, holding the hammer and sickle and whatever, and he was getting in their face and screaming about Mao killing 50 million people or whatever. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, what a loudmouth brute, but he makes a good point. and I actually respond well. I responded well to that sort of presentation at the time, which I think would be funny because I'm sure 99% of my audience would be utterly revolted by that type of behavior. But I thought, actually there's something I should probably dig into there, and started the research. So again, everyone responds to different things in different ways. And as you say, plant seeds. It is the ripple effect. That really is it. Look, I have, from a third-party perspective, observed thousands of people waking up over the years. Either people who've contacted me to say thank you, you've introduced me to all this stuff, or I sent them a link to your blah blah blah, and now suddenly my friend is aware of this or whatever. I've gotten that kind of feedback over the years, and I've never seen personally nor third-hand witnessed someone getting some sort of information or someone bringing out some fact, and then suddenly they're transformed. That isn't how it works. No, they'll get pieces of information, they'll try to argue against it, they'll go home, they'll think about it, they'll try to argue against themselves, they'll go, is that really true? They'll look something up. They'll go, oh, that is true. And that is the ball rolling, and it has to come from within that person. So it's the kind of thing you can't force, but you just throw the stones into the pond and you hope the ripples will propagate from there. And that's the other thing. People take it so personally, like it's my duty to do this, to wake people up, to proselytize. I'm an evangelist for this. And if you put it upon yourself, you're not going to live a happy life. Let's put it that way. If your whole mission is to wake up this particular person, and that particular person is coming from a fear-based perspective where they don't want to hear it, you're going to be butting your head up against a brick wall for a long time. Don't stop. Don't ever shut up or not hold on to bite your tongue, or don't say the truth that from your perspective. But if you invest your entire identity in trying to wake people up, you're probably not going to have a good time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so many people are dealing with just feeling like they're on an island too. This idea of like, you feel like everybody around you is brainwashed, and podcasts and shows like yours and shows like mine, I think really connected with those people throughout all this, because when things weren't making sense, but everybody around them is saying, no, this makes perfect sense, just believe what they're saying. It's, you kind of feel like, okay, am I going crazy? Because none of this seems logical. And so I think that's why shows like ours are so important, because it does give people that just that reinforcement that like, hey, the stuff that isn't making sense, I see it too. It's there, and it's not.
Yeah, I get that feedback a lot. There are some desperately lonely people out there who are surrounded by people who do not see the world the way they do. And yeah, I think you're right. Just modeling the fact that, hey, there are other people who can look at this rationally and see what's really going on is an important thing, and something that other people can do in their own lives. If you don't have a podcast, just be the person who will speak out the truth, and you will attract other people who see that. It's again, there's so many different aspects to all of this. And I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, I was going to make another point. What were you saying? What was going on?
I was going to ask you what's going on in Japan, because we just did a international Union of the Unwanted where we had people from the UK and different parts of the world, and it's fun for me. And like you, I mean, the beautiful thing about RSS feeds, people can get it anywhere in the world, so it's not, it's even better than a Fox News or whatever, that's on local TV. And I like connecting with people from all over the world when they hit me up. That's another thing. Like, I don't know how the hell you keep up with everybody. You said you read comments, or right? I'm like, I have no idea. I say this all the time. I'm like, I have a respect, because my show's small compared to yours, but yet I struggle sometimes to remember, like, did I email that person? Did I talk to that person on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, or was it a text message? And so it seems really hard to keep up with people. And I think that I can see why sometimes people get discouraged, where it's like, oh, I wrote this person, they never wrote me back. It's like, well, they might have a billion people writing them, so it might be hard. But I was going to ask you, when I do connect with people, it is nice to hear what's going on in their neck of the woods, because if not, I have to find out from the news, which is lying to me. So it's nice to hear from, so what's going on in Japan? And are like, I know obviously you have a family just like I do, so obviously this stuff is personally affecting me, my children. I'm pretty upset about possible trauma and you know, the lack of social interaction, the fact that to do anything, to participate in anything in Massachusetts as a child, you have to wear a mask. So it's like, if I want my kid, so it's like this balancing act where it's like, okay, I don't want my kid to be homeschooled and have zero social interaction. He loves sports, so I love to continue doing that, but they're saying that he has to wear a mask, or he has to do this. Yes, you know, so it's like this balance. I mean, I hate to be even in this position. Like, that's what makes me so upset and so passionate about this, because nothing will motivate you more than when it's affecting your kids and your family. And it has. I mean, my wife's in the restaurant industry, which you can probably guess how that's going in Massachusetts. Not very good. So it's affected us personally a lot, which has been a huge motivator. But in regards to Japan, what's going on there? I mean, are schools open? Are things, because obviously I'd rather get it from you than the news.
Right. Excellent question. Just a mental note before we move on. Yes, let me address that. I can't write everyone back who writes in. I'm sorry. But yeah, I get a lot of emails, so I absolutely physically cannot write back to everyone. I remember years ago I was interviewing Bob Chapman, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, I email back everyone who emails me." I'm like, "How? That's amazing. How do you do that? It's incredible. I can't even understand how you could possibly do that." And then there was one time where he got an email from someone that he forwarded to me. He forwarded his response, and it was someone with this big, like, long question, this complicated question about, well, I'm invested in this, and I'm wondering about this because I saw the stock moving here, and I was wondering if I should buy this stock over here because I thought, and then his answer was just no, or something like that. Like, that was his answer. I'm like, oh, that's how you answer every email that comes in. I get it.
Well,
anyway.
that's like Daniele Begnelli. He has that podcast, History on Fire, and same thing. He writes everybody back, and he has his email address in his books. He's written quite a few books. He has it on his websites. He has it everywhere. And when I remember the first time I contacted him, he got back to me really like, it was real short, just like emails back, and I'm like, why? I'm like, this seems kind of short. I'm like, I don't know if he's busy or if he's rude, or. And then in time you're like, oh, I heard him say he emails everybody back. I'm like, oh, this is why. Because I'm like, the only way you can do that is if you just give really short responses. So people out there, don't take it personally.
Please don't. I mean, literally every day I'm getting hundreds of people writing like essay-like kind of things with these multi-part questions and everything. I'm like, I could spend all day crafting an answer that would actually, get into the issue here, or I could do anything else that I'm going to do productively today. So I'm sorry. Anyway, yes, what's happening in Japan? So there is a state of emergency in certain prefectures here in Japan. I don't believe it's a nationwide one. I'm not actually sure. If it is a nationwide state of emergency, it hasn't affected me in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. But a state of emergency basically means the government says, you guys should probably stay home if you can. And what enforcement is there on that? Absolutely none. So it means nothing. And Japan being Japan, with a very work-centered culture, working from home is not a popular option amongst a lot of Japanese companies. In fact, a lot of companies say you can't work from home. So a lot of people are still going to work. Everything looks the same. Schools are not closed here. Life continues. There's no lockdown, anything of that sort. Now, I always caveat that by saying I'm not in Tokyo or, where these hot spots are, so I'm sure it looks different there. But at least in my part of the country, it literally zero effect on my day-to-day life or zero closures of any sort. The only thing is, I'll say this. So back at the beginning of all of this, in February of last year, or whenever it really started to kick off internationally, There were people wearing masks more so than usual. I mean, it's Japan. People wear masks during hay fever season and all that kind of stuff. So you'd see some people wearing masks. That gradually increased from, maybe you'd see half the people or less wearing masks on the street to by maybe the end of last summer, it was most people were wearing masks most of the time. To the point where it is at now, where pretty much everyone in public is most of the time 99% wearing masks, myself excluded. But most people are wearing masks in most situations. But here's the thing: so people will on the certain the COVID-19 is the Black Death side of things will say, look. See, Japan wears masks, and that's why they've been spared from the wave of death and destruction that a lot of other countries have had. But here's the thing about that. So, as I say, it took several months for it to really ramp up to the point where mask wearing was ubiquitous. During that time, Japan had whatever it was, officially 30 deaths from COVID or whatever out of a population of 100 million, whatever the numbers are. Very, 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 very low, minuscule. So. But then when they started so everyone's wearing masks now, and now we're getting this big spike in cases. So does that mean that masks are some sort of magical elixir that magically make everything better? Or because we're wearing masks more now, but we're getting more of these cases that are identified by the faulty PCR tests that we know give false positives? Again, it's all garbage. It's all nonsense. But I'm just saying, within the logic of the argument that these people are making, it doesn't even make sense. But I did do a video a few months ago about same facts, opposite conclusions, where I made the point that no matter what facts you bring to the table, no matter what statistics you have, no matter what numbers reported by what agency, whatever you look at, it depends on your starting perspective. So the people who think that masks are the magical answer to COVID-19, and you see it magically protected the Japanese people, and now that everyone's wearing masks all the time, and cases are spiking, and we've got this, emergency. Why did that happen if we're wearing masks all the time now? Oh, it's because it would be so much worse if people weren't wearing masks. You see, that's the way to solve that problem. So again, the numbers and everything, all of it's just a game. It's just a game that's being played with the population, and that's why I go back to stress what I stressed last April. What no one is saying about the corona scare, whatever. I wish I remembered the title of that, where I made the point. No, this is about the fundamental principle that we're being indoctrinated with right now, that even if there was this truly deadly contagious pathogen that's going around, this truly killer virus, I don't think that's what's happening right now. I think this is relatively not so big on the big scheme of things. But even if there was such a thing, the fundamental principle that they're trying to bring into society is you are now not responsible for your own health. You are responsible for every person that you could, not even the people you directly come in contact with, but the people they come in contact with and they come in contact with. If there's somebody that you pass some sort of infectious pathogen on, who passes it on, who passes it on, who passes it on, and it eventually reaches some 87-year-old grandma with a lung cancer, and she dies as a result of it, you're a killer. That is the fundamental way they're trying to re-engineer society right now. And of course, it's 100%. It's just a game that is being played. It's just an excuse to institute the biosecurity paradigm. And that's what this is about. So arguing about the numbers and the masks and all of this is kind of beside the point. The real point is that they're trying to say, if it were as bad as they say it is, and I don't think it is, but if it was that bad, we have the right to lock you in your own home. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not even if it was as bad as you say it is, even though you were lying. No, you do not have that right. And I think that's the place that we have to mark out in this debate. Because, yeah, you can argue about the numbers, the fake, cooked up, ginned up numbers until you're blue in the face. I don't think you're going to change anyone's mind on that.
That's such an important point. I say that over and over again. I'll have discussions with people, and I'll talk about the PCR test. I'll talk about the inflation of numbers. Dr. Scott Jensen, who was on my show, he was recently auditing some of the deaths in his state, and come to find out, basically he found all the same things we've been saying the whole time, of like car accidents that were COVID deaths and all these things. And by the way, this video will go on YouTube because similar to James Corbett, I'm going to go down swinging. I post to everybody. I don't care who it is. I just had Dr. David Martin on. Whoever it is, I post it up. I don't care. What are they going to, if they kick me off, it's just, I'm like James. I assumed it was going to happen eventually anyways. But yeah, so it's, you'll talk about all this stuff and I'm like, okay, so I can debunk all this information. But even if I believe the numbers, even if we pretend that this stuff is as bad as we, the media saying it is, and Big-Pharma's telling us it is, and all these mainstream doctors are telling us it is, it doesn't justify any of this. None of this is justified. You can't tell me that remolding society, changing, traumatizing people, alcoholism going up, depression going up, child abuse going up, people who need AA, people who need communities, people like all these psychological effects. You can't. What drives me nuts is that people are talking about the virus, and even if you believe it is what it is, then how do you ignore all the other negative effects of it? I mean, I hate to quote Trump, but you can't say that, or the cure can't be worse than the virus. I mean, he's kind of right. Like the methods and the tactics and the things that you're using to fight a virus is creating other damage.
Yeah.
And
of course, the argument is we've never done this before for flu, which absolutely can and does kill people every single year. And that goes around, and we pass that along. We've never done this before. But that argument actually tends to, in the minds of the COVIDiots who are going around saying this is the change of the human species, they're starting to think, yeah, we haven't done that, but I guess we should. We should wear masks all the time, and we should have lockdowns whenever there's anything going around, including flu. Sure. We should be perfectly 100% safe from everything all the time. And the only way to do that is to completely limit all human interaction. Look, I know that most of the people who are probably going to hear this probably already understand this, and that this has nothing to do with epidemiology, with disease. This is not about a disease. This is about a ruling class that wants to exterminate us like cockroaches. As I said before, they are really going to start the extermination at some point, the hard kill. We've been in the soft kill stage for a long time with all the pollutants and garbage that's being injected into our bodies in various different ways. But now they're going to literally be injecting garbage into our bodies on the basis of this scamdemic. And this is it. I mean, this isn't about a virus or disease. It's about getting people to accept their own extermination, essentially. And hey, we're icky biological things that are leaking all these viruses and icky substances all over. We have to be locked down for our own good, damn it. Please, daddy government, lock us all down harder. And the only thing that is really surprising about any of this to me is how quickly and how completely so much of the public has gone along with it, with the caveat, with the proviso. I am saying that because I see aspects of that in my real life. I hear that from other people. But, of course, that is what is reflected to us in the media as well. And we should not uncritically assume that the media is reporting reality. In fact, I'm just about to record a video about the protests, movements, plural, that are popping up absolutely everywhere in the world right now. Real protest, disobedience, lawful dissent that is going on all over the planet right now that mostly you're not going to hear about on the news. If you do, it'll be reported, some people were arrested for protesting here, these naughty protesters. You're not going to hear it reported in a way that puts it all together and shows there is a massive uprising that's happening right now. So I think people shouldn't base their view of what humanity is doing solely on what they are seeing from the media. But unfortunately, I think enough people are going along with it that the system is maintained. And as I say, we're on cruise control heading towards the big hard kill. And I wish this was hype. I got an email yesterday from someone who's like, James, your hyperbole and overreaction isn't helping anything, or something like that. I'm like, if anything, I've been too calm and too, rational about all of this. No, they're literally going to try to kill billions of people. Do you understand what that means? We are on the cusp of a massive depopulation of humanity so that they can bring forward their transhuman future. Do you understand what that means? I think you do not, if that is your reaction to all of this. Sorry,
And
sorry to lay all that out on you, but
no,
this
no,
is where we're
it's
headed.
our no. I'm the same way. I have a hard time talking about this and not getting worked up
Yeah.
because like you said, I don't think there's a such thing as overreaction when you know what the hell's going on, and it's like, wait, how can you overreact? I mean, they're literally ruining the world that you love, the people you love, hurting people that you care about. I mean, how is this? I know people that I love that want to get the vaccine, and I just want to grab them, and I try to be like, listen, you're a guinea pig because they didn't test the vaccine on people like you. You know, they're trying to give it to pregnant women, you know, suggesting it to.
You know what? Here's one tactic that might work on some people. Just ask them, okay, why are you taking it? Because it's 95% effective or whatever. Effective at doing what? Just see if they even understand what the vaccine is meant to do. If they have any understanding of, first of all,
Yeah.
what vaccine are they getting? Because they're all different. Again, people just say the vaccine. There are many different vaccines, several of which have been, or a few of which have been approved now in various countries. Which one? What is it? How does it function? What is it even intended to do? What were the protocols in the trial? How long are these trials going on for? And are those trials completed yet? You could just drill down on what people actually know about what they are injecting into their body, and I would be flabbergasted if 1 in 100 people could even answer one of those questions.
Well, that's why everybody who's like, "Oh yeah, things will get back to normal when we get the vaccine," and I just keep looking at, I look at people like, "What are you saying?" You do realize like they're already talking about a virus that's changed. Okay, the virus changed, which means if you get the vaccine, it's worthless because there's a new strain. Two, you're saying it almost like if once everybody gets vaccinated, then it stops the spread, but yet the pharmaceutical companies are telling you it will not stop transmission. So
it does not stop. They don't even intend for it to stop transmission. It doesn't stop transmission. It doesn't end anything. It lessens symptoms, supposedly. And as even the British Medical Journal points out, the 95% effective is a relative measure. So it's whatever, they're basing it on 8 out of 166 possible cases developed, blah, blah, blah. So that's 95%. But they don't look at the 7 to 23,000 people or whatever that were involved in that trial. And you're basing it on, oh, there were only 8 who developed symptoms in this way. It's total nonsense, top to bottom. And then you add in the different factors like, well, Pfizer and Moderna are the mRNA vaccines, which are not vaccines, as people point out, and rightfully so. This is not a vaccine. It is not anything you have ever understood or had in your body before. It's a completely, totally different mechanism of action. It is essentially gene therapy that is being injected into your body. It is totally experimental. It has never been before approved for human use. I mean, at least with the AstraZeneca vaccine or whatever the other ones, I mean, oh, it's just a genetically modified chimpanzee adenovirus. I mean, that's fine. At least it functions like vaccines as we've known them. But Moderna and Pfizer, truly completely different. It is not a vaccine. It is an experimental technology that people are injecting into their bodies, and generally without even knowing that much about what they're doing, let alone the long-term effects, which, again, the big pharma manufacturers admit they do not know. The trials are ongoing. They still have no idea. Even the UK government, in their Pfizer approval, we're talking about, this effects on sterility are unknown. So we'll probably dissuade people who are pregnant or planning on getting pregnant in the near future from getting this vaccine. But actually, I haven't seen any coverage of that whatsoever. I don't know if they are doing that in the UK or anywhere else. But, I mean, again, people's knowledge of this is it's just amazing. It's just incredible. And if they can do this, what can't they get most of the public to go along with? If they can do this, I mean, this truly is the line. If they can cross this line, I don't know. I think there's nothing. I think people would, hey, we got to go to the extermination chamber today, get our heads cut off for our own safety. Let's go. I wish I was joking, but I honestly, I don't know where the line is anymore, because if they can breach our bodily autonomy with experimental technology that doesn't even do what people somehow kind of believe it does, even though it does, they don't even say it does that. That's it. That's total mind control.
You know, something, a term that people have been hearing a lot, the Great Reset, and obviously you've done some great videos on it. Is there a end game? You know, is it really just depopulation? I mean, it seems like there's so many agendas. Obviously, Big-Pharma has their own agenda. I think actually on the Greater Reset, you did a video on cryptocurrency, or at least something along those lines. That's something you've talked about, and others have talked about, this idea of just getting rid of all physical money and that type of thing. There's all these different agendas being pushed. I mean, is that the end game? Is like, it's not just one thing, it's all these things, and then they're trying to just remold everything, every aspect of our life? Or is there one focus, something that's kind of steering the whole thing?
I always go back to eugenics as a guiding philosophy, because it's a good way to get your mind around the ultimate plan of the people who are in positions of real power, not the political puppets that are dangled in front of us, but the people who are pulling their strings, genuinely believe themselves to be superior beings that genuinely deserve to rule over humanity and rule over it in whatever way they see fit. And I think the Georgia Guidestones, I mean, I don't think it's set in stone, but I don't think it's set in stone, if you know what I mean. But I think that's a general rule of thumb for the way that these people think. Yeah, have maybe 500 million people to be in tune with nature, or whatever it says on the stones. But a manageable herd that can propagate the slave species that will keep us our literal undermen. I mean, The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, to have the Morlock and the Eloi, and literally you have the overlords who rule over the planet, and then you have these cave-dwelling subspecies that they keep as their slaves. I mean, that is the vision for humanity. And I always remember there was a BBC article from 2008 or something that I've shown a few times on my podcast, where they were talking about this. Scientists believe that in a few hundred years, because of the difference between the gen rich and gen poor, people who get the upgrades and people who don't, there will be a literal overlord species and a literal underclass species. And they had this illustration of this giant, Nordic whatever flowing haired, body specimen of humanity versus this like squat little goblin-like creature. Like, this was on the BBC. It's so bizarre. I wish it was a joke, but honestly, they are trying to engineer the human species into something else. And I think the ultimate game plan is to have an engineered subspecies of slave cattle, essentially cattle human, and to have the overlords who, at least a certain part of the technocratic class, genuinely believe they are going to merge with the machines and live forever. They genuinely, there is a certain, I'm not sure that that's the top level of the scam, but there is certainly a gopher level that genuinely believes that, the Ray Kurzweils and those like that are working towards that vision. And I think that's the type of vision at least Klaus Schwab and those types are selling to the global jet set. They are selling and branding this as, hey, that you can be part of our team and you'll get the upgrades and you'll be part of the future of real humanity, transhumanity. And that is that sort of vision. It's utter total. I mean, obviously that is nightmare to all of us who at the very best, our lives will be spared and we'll just be engineered genetically into this underclass species to serve the elite for the rest of time. Oh, yay. Yay. Won't that be great? I mean, that, again, this all sounds absolutely crazy to anyone who hasn't actually looked at anything that's happening in the news or read any white papers or looked at any of the things that these people have been saying or writing about for decades and centuries. And for those of us who have, again, it's Cassandra's curse. So we just are doomed to continue saying this until people listen to us. But that's why I'm really over just done with analyzing and going over this and saying it again and again. That's why my complete focus right now is on solutions. What can we do? I don't care about examining and scrutinizing their every aspect of their plans and detailing as, oh, did you hear the latest news about what they're doing to us? Couldn't care less about that. I am only interested in what we can do in our lives. So that's kind of the focus that I'm taking now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing that. People, I mean, my stuff's on Library and BitChute now and Float and all these alternative places. And I think because of the overreach of all these other mainstream platforms and how incredibly I've said this before, if the censorship was just mild like it has been for a long time, you're like, okay, I can still find some stuff, I can still, but now it's gotten to the point where it's so extreme that people really are just not just open to alternatives but searching for alternatives. And yeah, I mean that's a very good point, just this idea of like talking about solutions. How do we move forward? How do we, but it's, we live in such a wild time where it's like, but yet the stuff, like every other day there's a new story that makes my point or makes your point, and it's like you said, you could talk about that every single day, like, okay, let me
at a certain point you realize that is part of what they're doing right now. I mean, look at something like Parler. Like, whatever, it's for a certain part of the controlled political spectrum, and it's a controlled platform anyway, and blah blah blah, and they want your social insurance number and your DNA and your next of kin and a sample of your blood to sign up or whatever they ask for. Of course, it is not the answer, but it is interesting. I mean, they had whatever it was, 20 million users or something that have signed up and deplatformed it. They are desperately trying to radicalize a large section of the public and really ramping up the sort of Civil War preparatory stage. That should tell you something about where they're heading things. We have grown up most of our lives at least in the U.S. and Canada and Japan and nice sheltered developed countries. We have grown up our lives in this sort of bubble of unreality where everything's going along and nothing ever really changes, and yeah, things aren't great, but you can live your comfortable life. That is ending. That they're ringing that bell as hard as they can. That is ending. That is what the new normal is about. You are not going to live the rest of your life in comfort. They are going to make things uncomfortable, and they're going to ramp it up, and they're not afraid about showing it at this point. And that's concerning. It's a good thing because, as you say, it's getting almost impossible to ignore it at this point. Everyone sees it. They just have their own different perspective on it, but everyone sees it at this point. So at least we can get the conversation on the table if we're allowed to join the conversation. Oh no, they won't allow us on their controlled platforms. I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. So again, we just have to be continuing to educate people about what's out there and hoping that people will find what is out there. And it's going to take effort, but what in life doesn't take effort?
Yeah, I mean, when people, regardless which political party you lean towards or what ideology you have, anytime you see the collusion of big tech by censoring, Alex Jones, taking him off all the platforms, the collusion to basically banish Trump from the face of the earth, all this collusion. I mean, it just to me, it's like it. Right now, they're silencing somebody you don't like, but eventually it might be somebody you like. And
let's put it this way. There is precisely one lesson to learn from this censorship. There is only one lesson. And that one lesson is, if you are on a platform that can be censored, you are part of the problem. I mean, if you are putting your identity, your work, your speech, you are rallying to, you are joining up, you are signing up, you are becoming part of a controlled platform that can be used to censor your speech, then you are doing it wrong. Because the internet is not designed that way. It is a peer-to-peer network that is the old adage was that censorship was viewed as damage to the internet and it would route around it. That's the way that system is designed. It is not designed for everyone to go to one central server and get all of their information from there. So every single person who said, oh no, I don't like the censorship on Twitter, I'm going to go to Parler, was an idiot. A complete and total brain-dead moron who does not understand the first thing about anything. But that's all right, because everyone has to learn. And hopefully they have learned their lesson. I hold nothing against someone who makes that mistake, who goes, uh-oh, they're censoring us over here, let's go over there. Oh no, now they're censoring us over there. Ah, I never thought that would happen. Okay, whatever. Everyone makes that mistake. But if you make that mistake twice, shame on you. And that is the lesson that should be learned here. And that's why there are so many false solutions that are being peddled right now about, oh, everyone just get on this next controlled platform that's coming along. Or better yet, let's get the government involved. The government should be in there and forcing these companies to put these people on their platform or whatever. If you think that is the answer, again, you are part of the problem because, it's funny, all these people, oh no, we're being censored because the Democrats don't like the Republicans. Oh no, there's a Democrat in power now. Now, if we give the government the power to censor, then they're going to censor by law. Oh, I never thought of that. Total nonsense, brain dead thinking that is going to lead to worse problems. And I just don't want people to be part of the problem. I want them to understand the problem on a level that helps them actually solve it, not by rushing to more controlled opposition platforms.
Yeah, I mean, there's a documentary I watched a long time ago. I think it was called Revolution OS or OS Revolution, Open Source Revolution is what it stood for. And it really, the founders of the internet, the programmers, none of it was about profit or isolating things. It was all about like open source. I create this program, anybody can have it. I create, and then obviously, even in your Bill Gates documentary, you talk about this a little bit about how they ruined everything by finding ways of making profit and whatnot. People get so mad because I always say whatnot too often, but it's everybody has their thing. Yeah. That's my thing. But yeah, I mean the internet is supposed to be that. But so to be the devil's advocate, to the counter argument would be, I found your work initially because I had these platforms, the Googles, absolutely. The YouTubes, and these places. So if now it's like, okay, well, if I create my own little place, where I'm comfortable and nobody can bother me, but it also might be a place where nobody can find me.
Yeah. I'm not saying to avoid being part of some sort of network or something, but I'm saying we should structure our networks so that they do not function as centralized, controllable, censorable platforms. Decentralized networks exist, and they can exist. And there is an entire Fediverse of Friendica and PeerTube and all of these things that no one's ever heard of because they are completely decentralized. They operate the way the internet is supposed to work. Decentralized, so that you own and you control what you share with the world, and you join that network, and you control who you're sharing with and under what circumstances, and they share with other people, and that creates a platform that there is nobody who can step in and censor. There is no one who controls that network. That's the type of solution that we should be steering towards. If we all just go, oh, okay, this guy over here is creating this platform on this central server, let's all go over there because they say they're going to take care of us. Then, as I say, that is the problem. The problem isn't joining networks and trying to connect with other people. The question is how you do it. And I know that's boring, stupid, geeky tech stuff. I don't want to learn about that. But okay, all right. Well, then you just keep running into the same problem over and over and keep bashing your heads against that brick wall. And it's not going to solve anything.
I can hear Ernie now saying, IPFS, IPFS.
Yeah, well, he's
kind of right.
I mean, that's only one aspect of it, but it's something.
Yeah, and all your stuff is backed up on IPFS,
in
right?
multiple ways, including IPFS, yes. And in fact, I got to get in touch with someone. There's someone who snagged me a domain that is not .com, which, as people might know, is highly censorable and can be revoked and has been revoked in the past on other websites. But because, again, people probably don't understand about the internet's infrastructure, but essentially there are addresses, IP addresses for servers that you're finding. And essentially there's a phone book that says, oh, okay, CorbettReport.com equals 77.235. Blah, 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 whatever it is. Okay, so, well, we'll connect those and then you can go there. That's all it is. And so somebody controls the phone book. Well, what if there was a way to do that without the centrally controlled phone book? What if you couldn't couldn't censor a domain because there's no way to do it because you're just talking directly to the server. So there is somebody who snagged an IPFS related domain that you don't need. You don't need any sort of .com or any sort of middleman in there. So I got to set up a conversation with him to inform the audience about that. That's the kind of stuff I'm interested in talking about these days, more so than just endlessly scrutinizing the problem. But what can we actually do about it? And there are solutions. That's the thing. I think most people don't understand there are solutions that already exist to so many of these problems because no one's presenting them to them.
Yeah, and 5G is going to help us with the faster internet, so that's great too. Kidding. I think somebody, Ernie actually emailed me in regards to somebody in that tech. I think something to do with that technology. I'm curious if it's the same person. That something about again, I'm not that tech savvy, so it was a little confusing, but it seemed like that's what it was. It was a way of kind of bypassing having a domain address, a name, using some type of IPFS technology. I think this stuff is blossoming. I can't even talk. Blossoming because of all these issues, right? I mean, this is I guess the optimistic way of looking at things is that because of how bad things have gotten, people are really motivated for these alternatives and options and all these all just other ways of doing things. So when one door closes, another one opens. I definitely think that the bigger picture, like you're focusing a lot on, and solutions, I think is very important, because I think too often we do, and honestly, there's a little bit of fatigue of just analyzing the lack of science, the this, the that, but the bigger picture is important, how the world is being molded and how they openly talk about it. The Greater Reset, I mean, that's a fucking podcast. They have a podcast.
The Great Reset.
The Great Reset.
The Greater
Reset.
Yes,
the Great Reset is the Great Reset's by which you just spoke on, and by Derek Bros. But yeah, the Great Reset has a podcast. The World Economic Forum has multiple podcasts. Schwab wrote a book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. He came out with the book, The Great Reset, soon after the lockdowns. I mean, this is all out in the open, them talking about how they're going to use this to remold society for all these other agendas. So it's similar to like 9/11 when we talked about PNAC and all these other things. We're just like, hey, they talked about this. This isn't like some conspiracy theory, shadowy meeting, in some cave. This is stuff that they published and stuff out in the open. And that's the thing that always amazes me, is how openly they talk about this. And either one, they don't think anybody's going to listen to a super boring podcast or read some super boring book, or two, they just are convinced they know how to manipulate us and control us anyways.
Yeah. And I guess that's up to us, isn't it? I mean, are we going to go along with it? And it's interesting. Yeah. As you say, it's the same sort of things that are happening every single time. I'm sure it was happening 50 years ago or 100 years ago, but we saw it obviously with PNAC and 9/11 and that sort of stuff. Hey, it's right here. They were talking about it. That's conspiracy theory. Well, now it's the exact same thing. Hey, it's COVID-19. Well, they were just simulating a coronavirus pandemic in October, just as this was apparently starting. That's conspiracy. It's the same thing. It's just that the implications of that ramp up with each iteration. Anyway, Ricky, it's been a pleasure talking with you and whatnot. But I'm actually 15 minutes late for my next interview. So
sorry, James. I know you're a busy guy. Keep up the great work, and hopefully we talk again in the near future.
I hope so. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's make sure that ripple spreads all the way across the pond.
Well, you're helping with that. Thanks, James.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.